Hi folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope the work week is going well for everybody. Russ Anber, a fellow Canadian, a Anglo-Quebecois, I think. So from Quebec originally, and I believe he's an Anglo, but he's a cornerman. Importantly, for the purposes of this video, he's in the corner for Alexander Usyk. He gave an interview recently to a video channel that he often appears on called the 12th and Final Round. And he was asked by the interviewer, what did he, Russ Anber, think of Don Charles and that whole Dubois team speaking to Usyk at the press conference the way they did. And he was asked a number of questions actually, but he was asked that, and he said, whether it's Don Charles, and then he said, I respect Don Charles, I like Don Charles and all that sort of stuff. Like, he doesn't have a beef with Don Charles. But he said, whether it's Don Charles or any other trainer or manager, whatever, he said, I hate, nothing I deplore more than a trainer or manager talking shit directly to a boxer. He was unequivocal about this. He was very, very clear that he said, I hate, there's nothing I deplore more than a trainer or manager talking shit directly to a boxer. He said, it's one of the most cowardly things you can do, because when the bell goes, you go down the steps. He said, you can talk about your fighter. You can say wonderful things about your fighter. You can say that, my fighter is going to beat the whatever out of your fighter, and my fighter is indestructible, Superman, whatever. He said, you can say whatever you want about your fighter, but when you shouldn't speak, no matter who you are, as a trainer or manager, you shouldn't speak directly to the opposing fighter, because when the bell goes, you're not there in the ring, right? And I've thought this often. I mean, that pad holder sort of speaking to the heavyweight champion of the world as though he is the opponent. It's just absolutely disgraceful in my view. And I'm pleased to see that somebody else agrees with me, somebody who's got a much bigger voice than me. He went on to say that behavior is not from my era, not from my time, and not from my education in boxing, which is very interesting, because I think Russ Anber is probably, I would imagine he's in his 50s, maybe in his 60s, in his 50s for sure. So, he's saying like, that's just not from when, like my era, my time. And I music to my ears. I mean, and that's why I was even more, my gast was flabbered, because Don Charles is over 60, and you should know better that kind of stuff shouldn't go down. And Russ Anber then said, to me, the manager or trainer running off at the mouth to the opposing fighter, it just shows what little respect you have. He said, it's absolutely insane that this is happening. He was then asked by the interviewer, about the low blow, right? He said, look, he went over it again. He said, you've got the shorts and the belt line. The belt line is this like thin little line around like the belly button. And you wear a protector and a cup, and anything, that lands on that area is a foul. Like, it was absolutely clear cut. And he said he was told this by the supervisor at the fight on the night and other referees. Like, it was absolutely clear cut. There's no controversy. And this is the same as Hatman in his video explained it in great detail. And Julian McGowan, who was on Porky's Angels show with me, who's a long-time trainer, explained it again. You know, there's only in the head of those people who refuse to see the facts is there a controversy. He said, you know, the video evidence supports that, and the people are just, you know, refusing to believe what they see. He said there was like over 20 low blows on the night, but when the low blow happened, he remembered he was screaming that it was intentionally thrown. He says, and he was deadly serious about this, he said, "I will go to my grave believing it was intentional." And he said that, you know, when the ref waved it off and called it a low blow, Dubois didn't protest at all. Dubois was in the corner with his head down. Like, he knew not only that it was low, but he threw it, you know, intentionally low. And to be frank, I haven't heard somebody say, I've heard fans like me say it, but I've always given Dubois a pass. But Russ Anber, Anbers rather, absolutely believes that it was an intentional low blow. And I think we've all given Dubois a pass on that, because the ref didn't impose a penalty or anything on him. He didn't deduct him a point or disqualify him, obviously. And I think we've all given Dubois a pass on that. But Russ Anbers absolutely, like, categorically believes it was an intentional low blow. Which makes me think even more that Don Charles is just an evil mofo and probably, you know, was telling Dubois to do it. He said, you know, carrying on about the press conference, he said it was, you know, like, not giving Usyk the respect he deserves is just, you know, beyond the pale, really. He does accept that Dubois is an improved fighter, and he reckons, and this is an interesting one, that Dubois got a little pep talk from Usyk after Usyk beat him. You know, if we remember, Usyk went up to him and said, "Look, you know, it's boxing, not ballet. You can come back. You'll be fine." You know, like, he didn't sort of, you know, mock him after he beat him, but he was pepping him up. And Russ Anbers believes that that really had a beneficial effect on Dubois, that Dubois sort of took that and, like, oh, okay, this guy who I, you know, couldn't beat and who beat me has given me a pat on the back, so to speak, and given me a bit of a pep talk. So Usyk telling Dubois that he can come back might have actually really helped. And of course, it's, you know, it helps. You know, he spoke very favourably about Dubois' winnings over Miller, Hrgovic and AJ. And he said, you know, one was better than the other, that was better than the other. He also said that Usyk has grown into the division. He's now accepted as a legitimate heavyweight. None of this talk about middleweight, you know, which Mr. Fury was running off at the mouth about. He said every great fighter, when he was asked about does he think Usyk's improved, he said, look, every great fighter gets better by fighting quality opposition. Going 24 rounds with Fury was like going 40 rounds with a lesser opposition. You learn more, you develop more, and you become a better and more experienced fighter. He acknowledges that, hey, it's boxing. Dubois can win, but he does believe that if things go to plan, Usyk has so much more in his arsenal and in his gas tank that he'll force Dubois, no matter how gutsy Dubois is, he'll force Dubois to fight at a pace he's not comfortable at, and that eventually Usyk will prevail once again. It's an interesting interview. And like I say, the video channel is 12th and Final Round. I like the Russ Anber's interviews. Very straight shooting guy as far as I can tell. Yeah, I like, you know, he's just not he's not overly hyperbolic, or is that a right word? He doesn't hype things up a lot, and he doesn't he doesn't just, you know, run off at the mouth for the sake of doing so. But so interesting. Anyways, let me know what you think. And please like, Please share and please subscribe. Let's get Canada's boxing channel to the next level, whatever that is, right? See where we can go with it, right? I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.